Joining us today is Jordan Uytterhagen, Managing Director at Cadence Solutions, here to give us a bit of a perspective on records management in Microsoft 365. We're going to learn about how sensitivity labels, case closure of records, and e-discovery capabilities are available right out of the box within Microsoft 365. Jordan, please tell us more.
Yeah, let me just share my screen here, Kevin, and give me a thumbs up when that works, and I'll dive into it.
Looking good, Jordan.
Excellent. So I'll do 2 slides only about me and what I do for a living and why I think this will be impactful for you. And then we're going to get into a demonstration. I've attended a lot of conferences and events where I'm more of a technical guy. I want to see things work, and seeing is believing to be in software. So I'm going to reverberate that today in the session. So a bit about myself, and it's a kind of a unique story. I started on the customer side of the table. The poll result there, under pressure, absolutely, where I worked at an organization as an IT employee. We hired a large company to come in, what I call a big logo organization. I won't name them, but you know who they are. They're usually doing accounting audits and such, to deliver a records management project. And it was a complete debacle. So we spent about $300,000 in 3 months, essentially had nothing to move forward with. This involved a migration of some legacy systems. This involved formal records management and retention schedules to be built out in an ECM system. And really the result was we paid for a lot of flights and beer for consultants to show up and not do a lot. So I founded a company after leaving that organization and started kind of doing the implementations a little bit differently, dare I say ethically. And we've been doing that for 8 years now, completed over 75 projects in municipal, public, and private industries across North America. So that kind of stems into my team. So we have a large team here. We're growing each year. We actually doubled in size last year. So things are booming, specifically in the 365 world as well, as a lot of you are starting to roll things out. We help companies struggling with digital transformation. We can be that caveat and the ability to deliver, most importantly, not just sit there and eat up budgets like some other organizations do. So that's the focus from the organization I work with and founded at Cadence. We're a partner with Microsoft, OpenText, and SAP, so the 3 big guys in the industry there. Today's exclusively, of course, on Microsoft 365. So in terms of demo scenarios, what I want to go through, and we've given a few webinars in the past and talked a bit with AIIM on what we should present here today. And we get a lot of the repeat questions, and Peggy touched on them earlier. So it was, how do we engage users from a very basic non-records standpoint to save content into the system? So we just want users to essentially know where to put their things, get prompted for metadata, have that all governed, and the triggers and everything fire behind the scenes for sensitivity labels without needing to bother them. They really just want somewhere to put their things. That's what I struggled with at an organization. That one that I mentioned earlier is we had 1,000 users. We had a lot that weren't great with technology. We had some straight up retire. They didn't want to go through another system change. So we want to meet them, to Peggy's point, meet them in the tools and make their life as easy as possible. That just starts the whole change management win. So today I'm going to show off a bit of the file plan in 365 in the Compliance Center. I'm going to show it from a user perspective as well as we go through the case closure of records. So third-party add-ons used to be a really, really big thing with SharePoint, of course, when SharePoint was on-premise and it was harder to manipulate, and you needed to buy those subscription-based products to perform physical records management or advanced electronic records management dispositioning. I'm going to show you how we can do a lot of that out of the box with 365, and to not be intimidated or afraid by some of that functionality that does exist there. You do have to uncover it a little bit, but that's something we can help with. So I'll go through some case closure of records. We'll do a document set, close that out, and see the retention applied automatically to it. I'm going to go through sensitivity labels, which to me, when I first saw it, was one of those jaw-dropping moments. So if we have a social security number for my Canadian friends, a social insurance number, in a document, we want that locked down, not shareable, not able to leave the organization or the cloud environment, of course, where it's hosted. So I'm going to show that off. That's a major, major feature. The pattern recognition is really, really powerful without needing, again, to procure any additional software. You have this at your fingertips. That drops into data loss prevention as well. So if it is PII from a sensitive piece of content or a pattern inside of the content. And we do want to stop sharing and restrict additional access when that PII is there. And then, of course, legal holds. So legal holds, we're going to give an entire presentation on this at one point. But because of the 365 ecosystem, the ability to have that hold very wide across the organization is available to you now. In traditional ECM systems, you have to put everything in the ECM system. If you end up buying a federated search piece, yes, you can go and grab things from the file share and grab things from, you know, maybe your case system, your record system, your email system, and it's just kind of crawling into things, and you have all this, you know, hooks into different systems to try to get the information back to go through a legal hold and any discovery. So because of 365 and its ability to go into mailboxes, OneDrive, SharePoint, name a custodian, there's a lot of capabilities there, again, without needing to procure other software. So that's what I'm going to go through. I'll jump out of the PowerPoint here. I'll jump into the screen share on the actual application. If that's still working right, I'll carry on. If not, Kevin, just jump in. So first thing I'm going to show off here is the ability in one of my previous lives is contract management rollout. So it's a go-to area for me. We have a SharePoint site. We have some contract management document library inside of it. We have different vendors in our organization that we do business with. And we're going to roll out a new contract for Wonka Industries. So all of our contracts with Wonka are stored in this area. They're stored as a document set. Underneath that document set, we're putting in all the documentation. Those could be amendments, negotiations, correspondence, change requests, anything that pertains to a contract will be stored in one of these document sets. You can see all these are closed right now, and they all have a retention label in that column, about 5 columns in, which is defined as CAD 100 statement of work. As we set up a new document set for a contract workspace, we're going to pick a few pieces of information. Of course, we can automate all this, but I'm not going to cheat in a demonstration or a presentation here. Different content types, start dates and end dates. So we can actually do the retention, of course, based off of the contract end date. If there's a termination date, we want to calculate based on that and not the create date of any content or the create date of the set. We can add in our own signatory information. And of course, you want to send that out to DocuSign, that's all possible as well. So I'm going to save this set. In here now, we just have our workspace. So we have our document set, we have some metadata across the side in the information pane, and we have our contract status as drafting. I'm going to upload a few documents here. Let's say we're moving forward in time, we've negotiated, we've redlined, we've executed the contract, we've performed, or the vendors performed the deliverables for us, and we're ready to close this out. So if you've seen me demo before, I can demo for hours on end, so I'm going to hustle through some of this. As we go through to close out this contract, you're going to notice that right now there's no compliance asset ID. That's one of the ways 365 actually goes and performs its records retention and disposition, and there's no retention label. But again, to Peggy's point earlier, we don't want users to sit here and have to pick a retention schedule. That's the worst case for us. We want them to just simply go in there and say, this contract is closed, this project is completed. So as they go through and click closed, on the contract status on the right side here, it's actually going to go through, and in about a minute or so, it's going to flag it with a retention label. It's going to pull a compliance asset ID, and it's going to set this all up for the compliance center to take over on the dispositioning side of things. So I'll give this a minute. We'll try to do it like the baking shows where it's pre-cooked and ready to go. I may just jump back to this so we're not sitting here staring at a system. So I'll jump off into the sensitivity label side of things. Just one more refresh. There we go. So you can see down here, bottom right of the screen, it's automatically applied a compliance asset ID. It's automatically applied the retention label. And the contents actually inside of this as well. So those 2 documents we uploaded are inheriting everything. So hands off for the users, hands on for the records folks, but hands on for the records folks in the compliance center side of things. They don't need to be in this area. Now you can run reports and Power BI reports to see how many contracts are dormant and they're sitting there. This can be done with case files, of course. HR is another very, very popular example, invoicing, where you have multiple components, purchase orders and stuff, but the same concept can apply. Keep the users out of it, flip a flag, flip a metadata field, react accordingly, automatically on the record side. So second piece I want to show off in terms of capabilities here is in employee files. So again, that social security number, social insurance number example, if we're inside of an employee file, we can have a number of different templates and folders inside of a document set. This happens to be my employee file. There's some onboarding documents. When people start here at Cadence Solutions, we have them fill out an employee data sheet. In that data sheet, we have a bunch of information: who's your emergency contact, what's your birth date, all that sensitive information that we don't want really somebody getting their hands on. So as we put in a document, I'll just open this one up so you can take a look. We can have a social security number inside of it. Now I'm going to just take that out for now. And we're going to upload this document. Somebody uploads this document, it does not contain sensitive information, but sensitive information may be added at some point. On this document, there's different, of course, sharing rights that can happen with this document. Right now, anybody with the link in our Cadence demo environment can access it. We can share it with specific people. We can grant specific people access. We can allow editing. All of this can start to be restricted automatically by the system based on pattern recognition or sensitivity labels and types on the contents inside the document. So I mentioned earlier, this is one of those jaw-dropping features that we've seen, or that when I first saw it, that really started to change the game and put 365 just one level up on everybody else. So I pasted in a social security number. It instantly goes through and flags it as this has PII in it. And now everything behind the scenes starts firing again. We don't need our users to go in here and say, this is a confidential or protected ABC. We can do all that automatically. We can flag it with different sensitivity levels if we like. And they do have the option here, and we can enable that option. But if we let the system take care of it for them, they're a lot more on board when we roll out a new application, when we're migrating all that content from shared drives and everything else into 365. So think of your migration potential. If you can migrate in a bunch of content, it can automatically start to tag and lock down content because of the contents inside of the documents and records. It starts to make projects go a lot easier than when even we first started in 2013 rolling out applications. So because this document is now locked down and contains sensitive information, you're going to see a little icon here, and it's saying some commands aren't available. Those commands are things like sharing outside the organization and the ability to do some of those things. Now, if you're one of the users, we can send off alerts. So I'm logged in as Adam Minton right now. It's going to give me a notification to say access to this item is blocked except for its owner, yada, 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 last modifier, and a few others that we're able to opt in. So you can be warned as well. Again, that's a training/change management activity that's happening without you needing to handhold users along the way. So lots of different features that can kind of fire out of the system without needing to expand into third-party applications or spend oodles of money on consultants to configure things for you. So Kevin and Therese, I just want to do a time check because I know I can babble for quite a while. So
you are doing great, Jordan. I know we do have some questions coming in for you from our audience, so please be sure to be aware of that as we want to make sure we have some time for that as well.
So how many minutes do I have left, Kevin? Let me put you on the.
Well, let's see here. You have about what is it, 7 minutes or so?
about 7 minutes total, go about 4 more minutes here, and then we'll take questions.
Awesome. Okay.
Sounds great.
Okay, so I'm going to show, let's go into the pattern recognition. We'll skip holds today. So I'm going to show some of the abilities in the information protection area of 365 to go through and actually start to define those patterns that you want to be looking for and what's really built in here. Now, I'm not sure of the skill set and the exposure from the crowd here today. So if you've seen this, bear with me. If you haven't, I'll show you a few things here. So inside of our sensitivity label, we can define it as we like. We're going to say it's PII and display it as such. We can determine our scope. Do we want it on files and emails? Where do we want to go with our scope of this label? We want to encrypt the files and emails as well, if they do contain, in our instance, the social security number, social insurance number, driver's license numbers. And then when we get to this screen, we're starting to decide, what are we doing for the encryption side of things? Are we assigning permissions now? Are we giving users access to content that expires? Who's our co-authors and those permissions? What are we actually looking for and auto-labeling for files and emails? So just in our demo environment, we grabbed kind of the most likely, North American patterns we'd see. So in Canada, we've got social insurance numbers, health numbers, passport numbers, of course, SSNs, driver's license, TINs, and you can set your confidence rating and your instance counts. So there's different ways to go deeper into this to determine confidence ratings and exposure. You can't just put in the social security number and have it fire up. You have to have SSN or the word social security number nearby or a certain count of that to start to make it register. There is ways to test this without having to deploy it. And the result of everything is when content matches, what do we want to do? We want to apply the label automatically. Do we want to display a custom message to people? So our message is PII data is detected. Our organization's applied this for you and encrypted the content. So again, that's a quasi change management activity. They're aware that something's happening, that something they put in their content is now flagged. So it really aids, again, Peggy's, and I didn't talk to Peggy before this, but the whole meet your users in the tools, and the tools can do a lot more for you now than they could in the past. So I guess my portion of this day at the event today, I wanted to kind of show off more of the tools and stay out of the PowerPoint world. I think you probably get some more of that a bit later today, so you didn't need more of that from me. Kevin, maybe I'll throw it back to you. I think we got some questions, and we'll
all right.
Yes,
that sounds great. We do have several questions coming in here for you, Jordan. What licensing is required for the capabilities that you have demonstrated? What add-ons are required? That a couple of people are asking about that, and specifically, does it require higher level E5 or G5 government licenses?
So yes, E5, G5, A5, so the 5 series for a lot of the out-of-the-box records features. What we've talked with a lot of executives and sponsors and records people with is they're usually sitting on a 3 series or something lower, and they have to go do that business case or internal sales pitch to get bumped up from a 3 to 5 series to do records management. How we approach that, as if we're along with you for the ride, is the 5 series of 365 brings a lot more with it than just the record side. So if you get an ally in IT to go and start to present and pitch the executives and the the folks with the money, that might be the C-level or municipalities, your CAO. There's other things you can roll out. We've rolled out Teams calling, so elimination of cell phones, instant return on investment. Records is the throw-in essentially in that then. So 5 series in short. On our website, the reason I pulled this up is we do have a webinar specifically on licensing, and it covering the differences between the 1, 3, and 5 series of so E1, E3, and E5. So
okay.
There's about a 20-minute or so webinar on that. I won't bore you today with that stuff. So,
can you detect and run a report on encrypted files in the environment? Also, how about the files that are individually encrypted? For example, with a password, I encrypt with a file with a password.
So I'm not sure on the password one. In short, we can report on anything that's flagged in the Compliance Center through Power BI. Again, in the E5 series, that's a benefit you get by moving from 3 to 5. You get Power BI on the desktop, so more reporting capabilities. So we can pull back anything that has PII, anything that has a specific label. If it has that label, it inherently is encrypted, so we know that information can report back on that.
All right, very good. That is Jordan Uytterhagen, Managing Director of Cadence Solutions. Jordan, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.